Hello, my dear friend Jeremy. How are you doing, Jeremy?
I'm very good. How are you? What's new in your world?
What's new in my world? A lot. Leading my division at the United Nations International School. It's a lot of work, but it's very exciting. And
And
yeah,
I've heard that you wrote a book.
yeah, I was invited to participate in a book, in writing a book last spring. It's uh, speaking the world, multilingualism and cultural fluency in the professional world. And last spring, my friend Mehdi Lazar, who is working on this book, asked me if I could write an article related to multilingualism and artificial intelligence. And that's quite interesting, Jeremy, because it really shows. So, like, I'm a school principal, and I developed some interest and skills in some wide competencies in using artificial intelligence. But it shows so that there is really a need
Mhm.
to understand a bit the impact of artificial intelligence. And I don't think that I have an expertise at the level of people will have in a couple of years to write on artificial intelligence and multilingualism. But today, this expertise doesn't seem to exist. And so that's why they come to me and they've read some article that I wrote to provocate the conversation in the K to 12 world on the impact of AI in education. And I'm super happy to have been able to contribute. And last week in New York, we were presenting the book, and that was quite an interesting moment.
Nice. And I know that your chapter is based, at least in part, on Wittgenstein, who happens to be one of my favorite philosophers. And we need to talk more. But I think that the that transition between what we call sometimes Wittgenstein one and two, the two periods in his philosophy, actually have a lot to do with language, with computational thinking, and how what language is and how we can get computers to understand human language
Yeah,
or
no, I
not.
think this is for me one of the philosopher of the artificial intelligence. At least the part of the artificial intelligence that looks at language creation.
Right. That's
Yeah. But Jeremy, we are not here to talk about the book. And we're here to be able to, and I'm super curious, Jeremy, because you and me, we have shared a lot the last 18 months on how we utilize artificial intelligence, but we have not shared everything to each other. And there is things that I'm doing that you don't do, and there's things that you're doing that I don't do. There is things that you show me already, and it was really fascinating. But today you're going to share things that I have not seen yet, also. And so I'm here to lead this podcast today, but at the same time I'm really feeling that I'm the guest. Voilà. So what are you going to talk about today, Jeremy, to tease the curiosity of everyone who are listening to this podcast?
right. And it's going to be very different from what we've done last time. Last time you presented one platform very much in depth, and I'm going to be going more for breadth than depth. So I'll be showing a number of different AI powered applications that I have created. Some that we use at my school, some that I use myself, some that I use at other schools, some that are very, very much experimental. And I'll try to show some that can be used by schools, by administrators, but also focus on teachers and the use in the classroom, or at least for teaching and learning purposes.
I was mute. I was mute.
Yes.
I'm sorry for that. So Jeremy, I need to speak because I have a very important question to ask you. Um, we can see today many AI powered application created by others available on the market. Why we will have to create some? Why there is not enough already?
Right, and that's a fair question. There's so many already and coming like new being created every day. Why add to this like avalanche of new AI apps? And I think there's a number of good reasons. The first is all of those apps, or not all of them, many of those apps, we can actually recreate as educators in house ourselves. That comes at a much lower cost. Often that comes with greater privacy, and oftentimes, we can also add some functionalities that edtech companies might not think about. At the companies, they don't all have a real background in education, so they might not necessarily know what administrators or teachers or students need. We are so close, like working in a school, being educators, we know, like from day-to-day conversations, what is needed. Um, and then we can also create some apps that have very advanced capabilities that are not being offered at the moment on the market. And to be fair, it's also a way for me to learn about AI. I think the best way to learn is to you learn by doing. So you sort of in-house research and development. We try things, we fail, and we're happy when it works a little bit.
No, I think the cost is in all you say. There is one thing that I want to jump on here is the question of costs, uh, because most of those company who develop application using AI are using a key to utilize ChatGPT behind the scene, the API from OpenAI, and so OpenAI charge those company, and then those companies charge us, and they make a benefit on the AI. Like if they spend $1 of AI to and give this $1 to OpenAI, we might be charged like $3. While we could directly use the same AI than those companies are using, but directly pay at the source. And that's something that we don't really know. So we pay in some ways, when we use 10 application, we pay 10 subscription to OpenAI when we could have only one. Yeah, in some ways, I would like the tech company to think about that, allowing us, even for the application that develop, allowing us to use our own AI subscription. That would be great, but it might not be for today because it's a lot about profit. So what are some useful apps, Jeremy, that you have developed for for the adults for the adults at school? So not for the student first.
So if you want to look at my screen, I can show you a couple of those.
Mm-hmm.
So building on what you just said, so that first one here that is called data protection team, you could imagine a company selling this tool, because all it is, it's a chatbot that has access to the GDPR regulation, to FERPA, to COPPA, to all those regulations that are meant to for data privacy and data protection. I was able to very simply create an assistant that has access to those regulations. And so teachers can go and make sure that what they are doing is aligned and compliant, right? So that's a very, very easy tool to replicate. When we use it, it costs a fraction of what you would use if you were to pay a subscription. Talking about privacy, the next one I want to show you is this one here, anonymous data. And that's an example of a tool that doesn't exist, at least that I know of, that is easily accessible to educators, but it's very important. So it's one for which I have not designed a nice user interface, so it's still just a notebook. So if you don't code, don't get scared by the code. Doesn't matter. What matters here is, first, you can see um, here that it's downloading a model. What that means is I'm going to be interacting with the model that is downloaded in that safe environment that I can use to share private personal information with the same level of privacy that I would have if I were to use a Google Doc or Google Sheets, right? Because this particular notebook, it's called a Collab, it's a Google product. And so what that does is I'm sharing here a fake incident report, but I could share a real incident report with the name of the students, with the name of the witnesses, with the name of the adults who were involved. And what it does is it uses a tool from Microsoft called Presidio that is in this notebook that is going to detect all personal information, and then it is going to replace that personal information with pseudonyms. So the real name, if I go here, the real name was John Doe and Sarah Smith, but it becomes Stacy Stewart and Eric Jones. So everything is going to be shifted to new names, new student IDs, new, etc., etc. And once I have done that, then you can see here, then I can send that data to ChatGPT to OpenAI to interact with it with a more powerful model. And once I receive the answer back, I can sort of translate it back to the real names of the students. So what that allows me to do is share personal information, but in such a way that ChatGPT does not have access to it.
Mm. This is really the feature that when we talk about Temis last week, this is the feature that I would like to incorporate. We don't put the last name of the student in Temis, and we don't share birthday or personal information to OpenAI. But that will be the extra step, like to be able to even like transform the name and have like absolutely completely anonymous information shared to Temis and back to us. That's super interesting, Jeremy.
And I think it's telling that of all those apps that are designed for educators and for schools, again, as far as I know, nobody has designed this very simple tool, which would be here's a tool that will protect the privacy of your students when you share it with a language model. Right? That doesn't exist yet. So that was one app that I created. Another one that I want to show you is this one, and it serves the same purpose. So we are developing it with my friend at International School of Panama, Luis Melo, who's one of the AP in the high school there, and teachers are going to be using this tool to help them write report cards comments. So what I do here is I can add the name of a student. So let's say my student is Pascal. The class is English. I'm going to say that he's always on time, that he's making great improvement. Obviously, this is just a demo. Like in a real life situation, we would have many more drop down menus. And then I can add a comment. I can say that he's very nice and helpful with his peers. And so if you see here, I'm calling a model, which is it's actually a llama model from Grok, directly in the spreadsheet. So this language model, only has access to the cells B3, C3, D3, E3. It does not have access to your name. And then here, I just have a very simple formula in my Google Sheet that is going to replace the actual output. I can show you here, right? It doesn't have your name. It's replaced by student name. And then this cell here replaces this student name with your actual name. So I'm sharing all that information with the language model directly in my spreadsheet in such a way that it doesn't have access to your name. But as a teacher, I have here a draft that I can start with to write my comment. It obviously saves a lot of time. Again, all while protecting the privacy of the students.
Yeah, this is very interesting. It's not AI doing the work for you. It's AI assisting you. You give the information that matter, and AI put it together. That's very interesting. Yeah, I did a tool that has in the report cards, but the idea here was to help when the principal need to review many report cards. Like we need to read the report card because we learn about the student, but we need to identify. So, for example, in our report card, we don't talk in the junior school about the absences of the students in the comment. It's an information we can have on the report card, but we choose to not talk about it. And we have very specific guideline where we have some bullet point for the next steps, etc. And so the system, again, in a spreadsheet, allow the principal to identify. There is some flag that appears, allow the principal to identify, oh, here there is something that maybe need to be fixed. And sometimes it's not the case, but you still see, for example, that, oh, we talk about attendance, but sometimes it's fine because it's still aligned with our guideline, and sometimes the principal can then go back to the teachers. It's really saving a lot of time. Very interesting. Very interesting.
That's a good point. And so in this spreadsheet, obviously you can give a prompt, like a system prompt to the model. So what that allows us to do is we can instruct the model to write in a particular way that is aligned with the kind of report cards comments that we want to see. So what that does is it saves time for the teacher, right? Because that is much faster, obviously, than writing the actual comment. It creates report cards comments that are better in that they are aligned with our template. We also don't need to have, which we usually do, have a whole team of teachers reviewing each other's report cards. Here, the teacher can just review the output of the AI and modify whatever they think is either inaccurate or imperfect. but it's very much faster to have something to start with than to have to write everything from
Now, I
scratch.
like this interaction. Sometimes we think about using ChatGPT into like I put something and I get output and that's it. But here you can directly in the spreadsheet edit it, go back at it. It's very interesting. So what else do you
So,
have?
well, the next one is one of my favorite actually, because my current role is curriculum coordinator. And one thing that all schools around the world have in common is they find it very hard to document their curriculum. And even more so to document their curriculum in a way that is helpful, where they can go and actually map the curriculum and see what there might be gaps, overlaps, rooms for interdisciplinary units, etc. So what this tool does is you input a PDF that has your curriculum map, and it is going to create what is called a knowledge graph. So it creates what we call in schools a mind map, if you want, of your curriculum. So in here, I have all of my grade levels, all of my standards, all of my units, etc., etc. And then I can query that model, that knowledge graph. So for instance, I can ask what grade levels and units cover standard 3, that would be for aero standards. And it's going to tell me, well, it's covered in grade 6 and in grade 10, but not in other. So then I can ask, well, are there other units that we already have that could cover this standard in the grades where it's not being covered right now? And you can see it tells me, well, you do have those units and there could be connections there, right? So again, what that does is map your curriculum, create a knowledge graph, and then you can create that graph for the AI to help you find meaningful connections across very distant pieces of information that might be very hard for teachers to identify. Because if I'm a grade 7 teacher, I might not know what is being taught in a different subject in a different grade level.
No, it's fascinating. I've designed for the field trip. I've designed a way to be able to identify the connection between a trip that the student will take with the SDG from the United Nations, for example. But it's not at the level of what you're doing and mapping the way that you're doing. It's extremely interesting.
And then a last one I can show you that would be used more when we plan the learning or when we reflect on the learning than for interacting with the students is this one, Bamboo AI, which I did not create. It's a library that exists. Just I created a notebook to interact with it. And it's what it does is it does data analysis for you. And I'm trying to show you what my prompt is. Right. So all I did was share a CSV file. So basically, I take a spreadsheet that has a lot of student data that's been anonymized, and I download that spreadsheet, right? And all I ask the AI is, what can I learn from this student data? Offer a summary and analysis as well as visuals, right? So it's not even a good prompt. It's very a basic instruction. But the way it has been designed, this particular tool, it has many assistants that have tools that are able to do in-depth data analysis, talk to each other, and it is going to output a whole series. So the data was on map scores. It's going to analyze all of that data and not only create visuals and actually also a word cloud here, but it is going to, if I go here, give me a what I asked for, which is not only visual but also an analysis. Where it's going to tell me the difference in standard deviation, where there might be correlation or no correlation, etc. So it is doing a level of data analysis that we usually don't see in schools. That would be what you would get from a sort of actual data analyst from a one sentence prompt. So if I'm a teacher, I don't need to understand, if I'm not interested, all that code that I have here or what the AI assistants are doing. All I care about potentially is being able to ask this very simple question and then get these results that do what would be hours of work, right? If I was to, in a spreadsheet, create graphs for every single data point and then correlations and then analyze them, if I have the skills to do that, that would take a lot of time.
Mhm.
Here, it's done in a few seconds. And it actually also tells you how much it costs. So I can show you right here. it costs 5 cents. Right? So even if all my teachers do that, that's a fraction of what I would pay if I was to purchase a subscription to a tool that is designed to do advanced data analysis.
For sure. Yeah. So thank you, Jeremy. So what about some apps that you have designed to use in the classroom? So we can see this one can be used by teacher to do some analysis on student assessment, but you have some that the teacher can use directly in the classroom with the student.
Right. So let's hope they work, because it's in-house research and development, so it's experimental. So this one, Babylama, it's a tool meant for students to have a voice-based interaction with an AI tutor that is a language tutor. So I designed it so you can speak English, French, and Spanish. You could add other languages, right? So I'm going to try it in French. We'll see if it works. Raconte-moi une courte histoire en français. So I ask, it's going to take a second to process, and then it is going to. Well, and as you can see, it's telling me the little story in French.
Yeah, so we couldn't hear the sound, Jeremy, but we could see that he was going through listening to audio. We couldn't hear it.
¿Cuál es mejor, la tortilla o el gazpacho?
Ambas opciones son deliciosas, pero depende de tus gustos personales. La tortilla es un plato más sustancioso y calórico, mientras que el gazpacho es una sopa refrescante y ligera. ¿Cuál prefieres en un día caluroso como hoy? Tu pregunta está bien formulada, pero recuerda que mejor se utiliza para comparar dos cosas. Si quieres expresar una preferencia, puedes usar cuál prefieres, en lugar de cuál es mejor.
Raconte-moi une très courte histoire en français.
Il était une fois, dans un petit village, un petit chat curieux nommé Félix. Un jour, il découvrit un petit jardin caché derrière une haie. Il s'y installa et se mit à regarder les fleurs qui dansaient au vent. Félix se sentit tellement en paix qu'il s'endormit aussitôt. Tu as utilisé la bonne expression raconte-moi pour demander une histoire. Ton français est fluide.
No problem. Well, so the point is, it works. Trust me, it works. And so I get.
We trust you. We trust you, Jeremy.
So I get the text, and I also get the voice, like the narration, the voiceover of that text, and I can go and ask a follow-up question, and it is going to be very much like a chat. So it keeps in mind what he just said, what I just said, so I can have that ongoing conversation. You have tools that do that, right? They exist, but they are very costly. If you had to have one subscription for your entire class or for each student, it would be very, very expensive. Here, it's again a few cents, and probably not even that. The model that I use here, Grok is what gives me access to the model. That one is actually free. What I need to pay for is the text to speech that comes from Needs. But I actually only have a free account with them because they allow you up to, I don't remember, something like 30 minutes free per month.
And I think this is an important point here. If a school decide that this is the AI application that we want to be able to have for our students, because like at UNIS, for example, we teach 9 languages. We can see really the benefit of this kind of application. But then that means that we're going to invest in that, and that's going to take away from other possibilities. There is, as you show us here, there is so many policy possibilities in many different areas. Looking at some customized solution, utilizing some AI either free as what you're doing or where we pay at the source, can allow us to really develop many different solutions.
Exactly. So I wish you were able to hear my what comes to my computer, because of this other one, and there's an interesting story behind it. So for whatever reason, one of the most popular uses of AI from our teachers, but also from our students, is to be able to chat either with an author, like I'm chatting with Ernest Hemingway, or with the character of the book, or with the historical figure, right? And there are many that are available even for free, but they're not all available. So for instance, in grade 10, for a particular unit, the teacher wanted the kids to be able to chat with both Martin Luther King and Malcolm X to compare their perspectives. And there was a Martin Luther King bot available. There was no Malcolm X bot. So she asked me, well, can we create one? And I took that as an opportunity to learn a little bit about text-to-speech. So this particular bot, you can chat with it. It calls an OpenAI assistant that has access to knowledge like about Malcolm X, his writings, his biography, his politics, etc. So you can chat with it, but it is going to respond with voice and with the voice of Malcolm X. Because I synthesized, I found a video on YouTube with Malcolm X giving an interview. I grabbed that audio, synthesized it with 11 Labs, and so when it talks back to you, it talks back to you with Malcolm X's voice. And what we found, as sort of silly almost as it sounds, it really helped with engagement because for students, it sounded much more real than if they were to read about Malcolm X. It sounds like history. You have this historical figure talking back to you with that sort of grainy voice that you have from that era and with the voice of Malcolm X. So obviously when you have the views of Malcolm X expressed with his way of speaking and with that sort of grainy audio from the 60s or whenever the time period is, that makes it much more immersive for students.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is a really fascinating example because we can see how we can utilize technology and AI to encourage engagement for the student, and at the same time, and I can see like some of the people who are listening to us today, this we're touching also here the need also to be able to develop some AI literacy for our students and understand also that the use of AI, how if I use this kind of technology to what if you synthesize my voice, Jérémie, and you give me some political view, philosophical view that I do not share. And so there is really this need to be able to measure the impact, the positive impact on learning, and to build also a sense of responsibility and judgment for our students on what do they have access to. Because Malcolm X, we will know that it's not him. And in the tool that we're going to design, so this is the work we're doing as students. We explain the source we have, and we encourage all the school to have some AI statement where we can indicate when AI is used and when it's not used. But we can see in the current world all those AI can generate. I've seen recently a video with a professor from MIT who was in a Zoom meeting with someone, and then someone else pop up on the screen, and it's the same person because the first person was a bot that really looked extremely real and was engaging in the meeting with this MIT professor. It's really fascinating and a bit scary at the same time.
So let me try again. Let me see if you can hear that.
Unfortunately, we cannot hear the sound. But you know what? In the newsletter, we're going to put an audio recording of Malcolm X because I'm really curious to be able to hear that.
I apologize for that inconvenience. Let's continue our conversation here. Please feel free to ask any questions you have about my life, beliefs, or the social and historical context in which I lived.
This one was meant, is meant for ESL students, and it's a very simple one where I share what is my interest as a student. So maybe I like soccer, whatever it is. Then I choose my level of English proficiency. If there's anything I want to work on, maybe past tense or whatever it is. And then what the app does is it goes on the web, looks at the recent news, it writes an article, like an article based on those news, aligned with my interests, my level of English proficiency, and the learning objectives. If I want, it is going to read it to me. And it will also have comprehension questions for me. So it's a great way to engage students who are English learners.
Yeah, I think that the AI, what AI is going to be able to do for differentiation and to help students with learning difficulties, learning differences, is going to be really incredible, and also to be able to give access to education to some population who may not have access. I was this week invited to have a conversation with Bibliothèques Sans Frontières, who are having a big project to be able to give access to education in some country in Western Africa, and with some partnership with the government, etc. And that's really incredible how they're going to be able to expand access with limited resources. So it's really fascinating, like the access, and for students with learning differences, and access for population who can have access to this kind of learning, of professor, of material, is really a big a plus, for sure. Mhm.
And then this one is meant to be an alternative to AI detectors. So what it does is students upload their work, and it is going to create questions on their work, right? And there are different types of questions. Some are true and false, like, is this included in the paper that you just uploaded? What do you mean by this term? Can you use this concept in a different context, etc.? And in the end, depending on as a student, your answer to those questions, it is going to flag the teacher or not, saying the student was able to answer all the questions, they know the content, they seem to be the author of the submission, or it's strange the student was not able to explain the content of the work. It might be good to sit down with them. So it is not going to tell you the work is AI generated or the student has cheated. It's going to tell you, sit down with them and ask them questions because there are inconsistencies.
Well, that's great. Again, AI as an assistant for the teacher, and not here to replace the teacher. Very good.
Exactly.
So what else
And
do you
then-
have, Jérémie? What else do you have?
So this one, again, I have not created a nice user interface for it, and it uses a library called SlideDev. And what it is it's a tool that creates presentations for you. So it is going to use a template that I created, that is our school's template, and obviously it costs a fraction of the AI tools out there that create presentations for you. And if it takes too long, we'll just cut that, right? So it is going to ask me, okay, what document do you want to? So I'm going to select like this one. So that's an ebook that I wrote. So I'm giving you access to the ebook. Then what do you want the presentation to be about? I want it to be about AI in education. How many slides do I want? I want 5 slides. And it is going to extract the text from the PDF, create bullet points, and then use those bullet points to create a presentation, again, using the template that I provided. And all of that is going to create, to cost really a fraction of what the usual AI tools cost. And so you can see here, that's my presentation using the font and the colors and the template of my school with the sort of summary of the PDF that I gave it, aligned with the instructions that I gave.
Mhm. Yeah. No, that's very interesting. I feel that in one of the usage really we can have is, and we see that when we talk about TEMIS, for example, and when we work on the guideline, there is a lot of research, a lot of thinking, a lot of ideas that we have, and to put all these together, it's a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. Summarize, synthesize, create here the background color, etc. It's really a big time saver. So we can really focus on the content, and we can focus on being with people and working with people. Well, thank you, Jérémie. It's really interesting.
And so to conclude, so there are tools that I have created just for myself. So there's one like this one scrapes the content of a web page. This one summarizes any web page and gives you a one-liner and then a short description. This one, you have a whole team of assistants that work together to write a report, and that team learns report to report. So over time, they accumulate knowledge. The point here being, that's I think the main takeaway for people from this episode of the podcast, like those particular tools are just examples, right? We could create very different ones. What is important is AI is not just chatbot. AI is not just the edtech products that are out there. AI is a set of technologies that we can use to enhance and automate human thinking. So people oftentimes come to me and ask me, is there an AI tool that can fill in the blank? That's not the right question. The right question is, I want to do whatever. How can I use AI to do it? And there's always a way. There's always a way.
Mhm. No, I agree with you. I have a fascinating conversation with the curriculum director this year. We were talking about when we go in the class and we do some observation and we give feedback to the teachers. And I was looking at the possibility to capture a bit more information in what I see. So imagine I do like 200 observation with 3 people, 200 observation in the year, and we capture some information about how the students are grouped, for example, how the students are where do you see the evidence of the approaches to learning from the IB, for example? Is there some evidence that the students are manipulating the SDGs in their conversation with others? Is there many variables that we can look into? And so when we are talking, and I was showing already what I've designed to the curriculum director, she was saying, "Oh, can the technology do this?" And I kind of like stopped the conversation here. I said, you know what? We're not going to talk about the technology here. What is for you the best observation we can do that will have the highest impact on the student and on the teacher? And let's be creative. I say, let's think out of the box because this is what matters. What do we want to do? And then we look, how can we do that? And
Exactly.
that's really the powerful conversation. Now, if the school can have people like you, Jeremy, who have also the competencies to be able to manipulate this technology, that give you also that allow you also to see this is something that is possible to do. But when we start and we dig and we see that today, you show me things today that I didn't know that I could do. And so that expand the possibilities. So I think it's important also in some school, people who can see what we can do with technology and allow others to think out of the box. We talk about curriculum mapping, for example. Are we going to use Atlas? Are we going to use Power School? Wait a second here. What is for UNIS? The best curriculum mapping we can do. What is for ISP? The best curriculum mapping we can do. And then we see what technology can support that. And I really strongly believe that's the way to go to emancipate ourselves from the limitation that technology can give us and use technology to break those limitations in some ways.
Exactly. And many of those tools, they come from teachers coming to me and asking either, how can I have the AI do this for me because it's just a waste of my time? Or how can you help me do something that I wish I could do for my students, but I can't right now? So we have tools like the ones you see right now in the screen, where it takes your slides that you already have that you use in class, and it extracts the unit plan or the lesson plan or the unit plan. So all that time that teachers sort of waste documenting what they're already doing, the AI can do for them. When they're designing new units, that's not a waste of time. Designing new units is a very important task. Then we have tools that are going to help them do that in alignment with our framework, right? So this level of customization is only possible when you create your own tools. And again, that's the takeaway here. When you have a little bit of in-house research, you pay less, you have more powerful tools that are more customized, and you develop a literacy that is in your context. That is very much worth the investment.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jeremy. That was extremely interesting. I'm looking forward to try a couple of those tools that you share with us, and I will see you next week.
See you, Pascal.
See you, Jérémie. À bientôt.
Salut.